Hello, and everyone, welcome to a special edition of DSI Live. I'm your host, Vanessa Emerson, founder of Dental Speaker Institute and Dental Speakers Bureau, and I'm so excited to be here today with our friend, colleague, mentor, and humorist, Tim Gard. Tim, thanks for joining us.
Oh, I've been looking forward to this. This is going to be great. I've been looking forward to chatting with you for a while.
Oh, awesome. I have too. This is so important right now, I think, for speakers and consultants to be able to stay connected in this time where we're physically separate and where life is just so different. And I, I'm not going to take a lot of time to give a bio about you, Tim, other than maybe you could just fill us in here. I'm going to ask you a question to get us started, but maybe you could give us a couple sentences about your background. But I think so many, certainly anyone who's at Jumpstart is going to remember you and the humor teachings you brought us around how to add humor to our presentations. But maybe you could give us just a nutshell about your life as a speaker, how many years, and what it is you do. And then I would love for you to roll into in a stressful time like this. Like, certainly there is the opportunity to have stress right now. I'd love to hear some of what you recommend.
Sure. I actually got into the business. I was a welfare caseworker. People came to me to apply for welfare benefits.
Wow.
And I was the guy that determined who got food and who didn't get food
Oh.
based on federal guidelines. It was probably the most stressful job I've ever had in my life. And it was incredibly emotional because every day there were needy people who weren't eligible, and there were eligible people that didn't look needy. And so I thought I needed a change in my life. So I applied for and got to be a welfare fraud investigator. So I got to go out and investigate the very same people I established eligibility for. And now what I was seeing, if it was sad before, this was 10 times worse, because these were the people that were having drug problems, alcohol problems. There were criminals. I mean, I had my life threatened. It was a very stressful job, and then decided again to do something else. I got a call one day that left a message, and I was married to a lady named Lori, and Lori came home and she said, "We got a death threat on the phone, and it just said, if you come to quorum again, we'll kill you." And I said, "Honey, the killers don't call ahead.
Oh.
You know, they're only on TV." And I realized then, Vanessa, I had what's called compassion fatigue. I was burned out and didn't even know it. That if I was so immune to this thing, I mean, they really don't call ahead, but my wife had a genuine fear.
Sure.
So I decided, I went to work I got a job with the federal government. So now I've been at the delivery benefits and then investigations, and now at a federal level. And I found that the same type stressors occurred as it did when I was on the front lines. And as I got higher up in the government, they did this called Show the Flag, where they sent me to different agency meetings to talk about the food stamp program. Now it's called SNAP. But I got to be known as the funny Fed, which is kind of an oxymoron when you think about it. And people started offering me money, and the next thing I knew, I was going. And in 1 year, I quit my job. I got divorced. I sold my house, sold my car, did every stressful thing that you can. And the first year I did 10 events. The second year I did 20, and literally had decided that this was what I was meant to do. I took a chance. And I think a lot of the folks that are out there are either considering that now, or they're looking back and lamenting if they took a chance. And I would say to you that this is a time of not just opportunity, but a need for their skills, that our words are more important now than ever before. And the ability to weave those words properly, to be able to really help people, I think that it's infinitely more important than it was before. Well, anyway, that was 25 years ago. I have been through 9/11. I was on stage when 9/11 happened. The audience went from hysterical laughter. I was in the last 10 minutes, and they went from hysterical laughter to total silence. No cell phones. It was all word of mouth.
Oh,
I
wow.
spent 2 days at a speaker bureau's house. My good friend Nancy Vogel housed us, and I got a rental car and went back to Denver. And people then thought that this business was over, and it seems like it was not that much longer. The next thing I knew, we were back to business as normal. Now, what I would say about that is, I don't think that's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is meetings are coming back. Meeting large and small are going to come back, but virtual meetings are always going to have a place now
Yeah.
on our ability, in our wheelhouse, if you will. This is not the time to fear technology. I'm not a spring chicken, so to speak, but I've jumped in with both feet, and I think that this is something that can benefit us forever. But our words are important, really important now.
Mm-hmm. I want to jump in a couple things to unpack there. I mean, you gave us some great wisdom already, and I agree with you. I think that in the future, hybrid meetings especially will be a great way to go. And we were already starting to go there with Jumpstart to have on the horizon to plan some virtual registration as well as the in-person. I think you and I both would agree there's no substitute for that in-person meeting. And so when we get back there to the point where we can meet, we certainly will. But I want to ask you about that 9/11 situation. So you were in the middle of a keynote, it suddenly got quiet. So you probably didn't know until you got off the stage what had happened.
Well, I didn't know if my pants had come unzipped. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Well,
could.
I'm not funny anymore.
We went from hysterical laughter to, and it was like a ripple. It just slowly came in until the audience was totally silent. And then people started getting up and walking out one at a time. And I just kept going. And the meeting planner
Wow.
said, we didn't know what to do, Tim. And so when I came off stage, I said to Nancy, what happened? And she told me.
Oh.
And so that's when I found out they didn't know whether to get up and stop me. What would have been the right thing to do?
Who's prepared for that?
No one. No one
Right.
is.
Well, it makes me think too, as trainers, speakers and trainers, we tell ourselves stories like what's going on in my pants unzipped or whatever. And how often we don't know, like if that person is sleeping or that person seems to be sitting back angry or whatever. So and I'm sorry, I've got like something in my eye. I'm not winking at you.
No, you don't have
And
to
I'm not supposed to touch my eye, but
I think they don't want you touching other people's eyes.
that's probably what it is. I won't touch your eyes. But what a great reminder that we don't always know what's going on, and to try to, if we can, touch base with our audience. So I'm sure they did jump up then and share some information. So, I know we want to talk about words, and I do want to get to that, but I want to ask you too, because you brought up 9/11, and I think that is something that many of us can relate to. My millennial kids were definitely like elementary school when that happened, so they weren't in the workforce yet, but many of us that are older would have worked through that period of time. And then certainly in 2008 and 9 when we had the recession, and things really shifted in our general speaking industry, I'm sure all around the world. What have you noticed from the standpoint of your business? How are you able to maintain? Are there any tips you can share with us around that?
Yes, the biggest thing I think is that people need hope. And hope is personal and not impersonal, meaning these people that are sending out these bulk emails, I believe that they're going to lose customers by that. I've been reaching out individually, one customer at a time, and talking with them and not offering any services, just talking with them. And I have some video clips of funny things that I have prepared that I'll send them to follow up. But my main point is just to say, I'm here, and just wanted to have a quick chat, and we didn't really debrief from our program, and I do anything. If you do anything, listen. Listen to them. I think people need to be heard. I called a lady that had said to me that her event in April is canceled, and she didn't know what to do. She left me this message, didn't know what to do, and people are calling, and I wrote back and said, I called and I said, I left a message that said, I will be there unless I'm hit by a meteor. And she called me right back. So I think that the first thing is reach out and touch base with your customers, not even people that you're doing business with, but that you have done business with. And choose your words carefully. Don't call up and say, oh, how are you going? I think words like, I believe that this is what's going to happen. And I think that they just have so much power now. I think we share stories of compassion that we've seen ourselves. I told you the other day, I watched a woman had the last 2 giant rolls of toilet paper, take one roll out and put it in another person's cart didn't even say anything, and just walked off. And
Mm.
that's compassion, and I want to share that with people.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that crazy that something like sharing toilet paper would bring a person to tears?
Well,
I
that
mean,
whole
really.
Seinfeld episode of "Can you share a square?"
Oh,
It's gone so much bigger than that. Is that quite frankly, it's a commodity. I mean, think of
yeah.
people sitting around their living rooms with hordes of toilet paper. I mean, fear is real, and
Yeah.
it's to be accepted and not hidden, but
Mm.
rational fear. I mean, uh, I'm not going to carry a baby cobra in my pocket. I think I'd be afraid all the time. I mean, that's irrational fear.
Yeah.
I think that people can think about the future, but right now is a time when we need to stand tall for our families, for our customers, for your practices. That people, I mean, people don't mean to take this to the base, but people are always going to have teeth, and
Mm.
and they're not always going to take care of them the way they should. And that's where you come in. That's where so many people in your audience come in. That what can we do to support you during this time, is asking questions like that.
Absolutely. I think it's a great message for the planners, the consultants, the speakers, everyone who's listening in here, because we all have clients and past clients that are in that base, the dentists and the teams that are right now are, frankly, it's an unprecedented time for so many all across the world, but certainly here in dentistry. And what a great time to reach out. I mean, if we're not in the practice, one would assume we might be able to have some time for that, to be able to reach out to the full patient base. I had a Facebook Live last week with Katrina Sanders, and she shared that at AZ Perio, which is the largest perio organization and company, dental practice, I guess I'd say, in the nation, they're one by one calling their patients. And I love that you're guiding us to what should we say in that situation.
Mhm.
I know that if I had a call from my dentist, that would mean something to me right now. I don't need him to solve anything. I don't need him to bring me toilet paper or anything. I just need just even to have a voice message that they're checking in.
Well, whether they're open or not, it'd be very important what the new hours are. People are changing it on their websites, but if you're going to be calling people, then call them and tell them, here's when we're going to be here. If you have an emergency, this is what you do.
There you go. Yeah.
And maybe one or two things like that. And when you close, I'm a Vietnam veteran. I was in the Navy, and when I came home, people didn't know what to say to me until
Mm.
someone came up with "Welcome home." And
Mm.
that's really all you need to say to a veteran if you don't know what else to say. And maybe we say smile, or maybe we say, the brighter smiles tomorrow. Whatever it is, especially with your own practice or your own business, if you can come up with a trigger line, and you and I'll talk to anybody who calls, I mean, something that is uniquely theirs, so that people remember them, that if there's an emergency, please, do call.
Yeah. 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 So, as speakers, primarily, let's talk about this from the standpoint of both speaker and planner. We're seeing a shift, obviously, to virtual. Um, Give us your thoughts on. I mean, so you and I even had a little challenge with technology before
Yep.
we got in here. So we're going to expect that this is going to be somewhat common right now. People are going to have to. There's a learning curve
Mhm.
as we move to virtual.
Well, I'm doing things like, this is a Zoom call. I've actually been taking classes so that when there are problems, we need to also be problem solvers. And it's a technology that we just can't assume. I call it the Jean-Luc Picard method, where you just go, make it so, number one. That's not going to happen. That we need
Yeah.
to know enough. Like today, you went through the various step-by-step solutions to solve this. Neither of us got angry, neither of us got upset, and we came up with the solution. So knowledge is power. And for those of us like me, I've presented virtually for years now to a leadership group in Australia, and I've learned different techniques and what to do, if what to set up for the systems. It may be something where we could even send out some information on basic technology that's going to help them. This is it's a Mevo. It's MEVO. And it's a small device that you can put on your desk that while you're doing training, it will actually act as an in-house production crew where it'll make your face, you know, if you walk or move, it follows you. And it's as if you have somebody there filming like your own production crew. It's called an MEVO. I'm not the technology guru, but we know enough people that we could give them resources
Yeah.
that can help them step up. And how you stand out, Vanessa, is going to be critically important because everybody's saying virtual. You need to stand out.
Absolutely. I think there's a couple of opportunities too for with virtual in that there's the virtual live, but there's also the online recorded, right? Those are two very different things. But virtual live is a big step to online recorded. For instance, I could be on here for 45 minutes an hour and present a course that just on Zoom for what, 15, 16 bucks a month, you can get Zoom, record, and now you've got a nice high def MP4 document that you can put on YouTube and be able to put on your web, you know, you could do it, what is it, private, or I can't remember which setting it is, so that not just everybody can see it on YouTube. You can put on your website and now you have something to sell. I mean, there's really easy ways to do this. Kajabi, there's lots of different platforms where you can, there's definitely solutions. What I'm seeing out there is people who are swimming fast to get ahead of it. And I'm also seeing people who are feeling like there's not a point. And I want to encourage those where they feel like, you know, it's not that everybody's not working. In fact, I think the opposite. Like, I'm having a hard time finding time to exercise, which is driving me crazy because we're like on, you know, we're trying to stay ahead of it. Plus I have event planners now calling saying, I know we need to go virtual. How do we do that? And so we're working here harder to like help our clients so that those emails that go out address virtual solutions so that we have you know, resources available for planners who want to know what are the different platforms and what are some tips, what are some etiquette tips. I posted a video on the DSI group. I don't think very many people actually watched the whole video. I could kind of tell who watched it because they would say haha versus just a like. So for any of you who didn't watch this, go back and watch the Zoom video that I put on there because there was a haha on there, Tim. So go back and watch it.
All right, I will. I'll go back. I'll watch it.
I feel bad for the girl. I don't mean to laugh at her, but it was more like it was my internal nightmare of forgetting you have a camera pointed at you when you're on a virtual meeting. There's some etiquette. There's some things we need to know. So we're pulling together those kind of resources to be able to help. You know, one thing I really wanted to ask you, I've thought about this a couple times, and I tend to be a sarcastic humor kind of person, and I'm not easily offended that way. It's my upbringing. So my first thought goes to like a pandemic special or something, you know, like if I'm thinking, ooh, too soon. Can you help us navigate those waters of, I mean, because seriously, you know, I recognize this is a serious thing, and I recognize people will die.
Yes.
So I don't really want to use that as a discount code, but how can we have fun with it and lighten the mood while still being serious enough? And
Well, I think that's a great question. You know, after 9/11, I was at a National Speaker Association conference and Jack Canfield was there. And I had said something like, all these incredible stories that surfaced after 9/11, when do you think we could, you know, you could tell those? And he said, it's too soon. And then he made the comment, something like, it'll always be too soon. That there are some things that are virtually untouchable. But I will tell you that, I mean, I early on in the problem with the virus, I had made a post that said, it tells us not to touch our eyes. I think it's more important not to touch other people's eyes. I posted that as a lighthearted attempt at humor, but I think we've got to be really careful right now because with our customers especially, this is not probably the time for that. You know, Carol Burnett said, comedy can be tragedy plus time. And I think that we're going to have to determine how much time. I do think that we should not diminish it, but I think there'll be jokes like that. I mean, there are jokes about everything. It just depends upon the audience, the timing, the parties involved, and your intent. You know, dental hygienists have their own humor, no question about it, and things they may find funny, other people may not. Same thing with meeting planners or doctors, consultants, you know, and when I was in social services, they had their own humor that probably wouldn't translate out. Here's the thing I tell you, C.W. Metcalf said, laugh at yourself and laugh not with ridicule, but with objectivity and acceptance of self. That's open game to laugh at yourself. On the way up here today, I stubbed my toe and I think I might have broken my toe. And I was actually laughing about it because I thought this is going to be a good story someday.
It'd be a good story today.
It's going to be
It's all good speech material.
Yeah.
Repeat your quote again. Tell me again.
C.W. Metcalf, really one of my heroes from I think he was from Boulder, Colorado. He said, laugh at yourself, not with ridicule, but with objectivity and acceptance of self. That when we make mistakes and we're having trouble with Zoom or with Facebook Live or whatever it is, we can just say, I've got to quit hitting the keys with my hands. I'll probably get better results. Or we can make quips about our own things that we've done and laugh at ourselves. And I think it's a real positive thing. I've been home now more. I mean, since this has happened, I haven't flown like you. I haven't flown anywhere, and I'm beginning to wonder if Sophia and I are relatively newlyweds, but it's like I've teased about the fact that I think I've been home just a little bit too much. That as much as we miss each other on the road, when I'm on the road, being here can be stressful, and so. There's a lot of things like that we can also do is recognize it, find the funny things about it and share those things,
Yeah.
I'll give you one more thing. I think people need account-buddies. And that's somebody like Dan Thurman is one of mine. I call and we can talk about anything. We can talk about our businesses. He asked me, Tim, have you been doing this? Are you doing that? Is that we reach a point in our careers where we're not accountable really to anybody. Nobody really knows what we're doing in that office. Account-buddies would be a real positive thing. And we share the funny things that happen. And I got one from Mark Sanborn the other day. There was a store that had all of this vodka. And then right next to it was a 12-pack of toilet paper. And the caption said, decisions must be made. And it just made me laugh. And I love that,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I love the idea too of having like people, people to check in with for sure. Oh, no, the sun's out in Oregon.
there it is. This is the hardest thing with Oregon is that every once in a while the sun comes out. It almost makes me look like I'm in a witness protection program. It'll almost blank me out with the sun.
You're just taking that second in while the sun is shining. Maybe it'll come again.
It lights me up so much. Yeah,
Here it comes again.
It does. We're just not used to the sun. People would think we're vampires or something. It's like,
And I bet that feels so good when you've been self-isolating.
It does. We just want to run outside and I mean, all of the things, the new normal is to celebrate life whenever we can, to laugh when we can, to share that laughter when we can. All of those things are critically important now. And I think everybody in our audience, I mean, you have a place for this and you need to be heard and you need to share what you can do to help others.
Definitely. And I really believe that every speaker has an opportunity here. I believe there's never been a more important time for us to have our message out there. And there's definitely ways to present it. And there are meetings out there that can pay the honorarium. They need to have that meeting happen. I mean, there's just so much opportunity. We need to not freeze. What we need to do is, pivot, turn our thinking to like asking the right questions and looking for those opportunities.
Yeah. What we almost always ask when I'm hired, what are your goals and objectives for this meeting? And quite frankly, Vanessa, that hasn't changed. Their goals and objectives remain. We just have a lot more opportunity for a variety of ways to fulfill them. And I think saying things like, I can make this happen. I can do this.
Yeah.
Going into that when that, if you're in a video, I mean, it's like, and smile and I think that we have to believe.
Yeah. That's all we can control, right? Because there's so much about this that we can't control. And certainly you and I, I'm sure, are no different than everyone out there, that I had a moment this morning when I woke up 2 hours too early where I thought about things like my daughter sister-in-law and niece that are on the front lines in healthcare. So I had a moment of like a, when, you know, there's not enough personal protective equipment and, you know, this sort of thing. But then I had to talk myself off the ledge
Hmm.
and get back to sleep, because the best thing I can do is get sleep and be refreshed for my day, bring a message of here's what we can control, here's what we can do. And then I think having you know, a deep-seated belief in something, whether it is religious or, you know, spiritual, or I mean, I think there is a little different there, but, you know, it doesn't have to be you go to church every Sunday, but have some kind of a belief that there's a greater, something bigger going on here. It helps us be able to look at all the blessings. This weekend, when I did go out to the store and we came back, as I drove into our development, we have about 150 homes here and a lot of kids. And what I saw were parents on bikes with their kids, parents walking hand in hand with their kids. I thought there's some blessings to what's happening here. And I find that even with our family, we're definitely, it feels to me like I'm more connected to my adult children and my mom. I'm checking on with her every day, which I wouldn't normally do that. I mean, there's definitely been some benefits.
Well, and there's things that they can do. You know, I was speaking with Carrie Lorenz, one of our Hall of Fame members, and she said that I think it's every hour on the hour, her family has to stop and they have to do jumping jacks or 10 push-ups, no matter where they are. So if they're out driving around, it's, you know, I mean, I imagine they stop. I can't imagine them doing that, but it's like that all of a sudden it'll be at top of the hour and Carrie says that she'll hear this flurry of activity. And this can be the new normal. That there's a time when you'd have gone, what are they doing? As we were talking today, there was two little children out in front here that were just giggling, and I had my ear. I just wanted to hear it.
Yeah.
You know, there's just something about that I think that we crave. And you know, I was talking on a podcast here last week and was telling people, this is the time to find those little jewels you've always wanted to watch, those really funny pieces, like when Carol Burnett in the old Carol Burnett show, when Harvey Korman and Tim Conway tried to crack themselves up, and great character, to go back and watch some of those, the old Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein and things we never had time before. And what it does is it refreshes and renews us. And so that we can stand tall and be stronger for those around us, you have to take time for yourself.
Totally.
Critically important.
Totally. So let's talk about that in a little bit different direction. And I'm throwing this at you. This is not Tim's intent on being on this program, but I want to highlight the fact that now is also a really good time to work on our skills as speakers. Now's a great time to create your website. Now's a great time to do a lot of stuff, you know, where we have, especially if you find that, you know, you have extra time. Now's the time to get some of these projects done. So if someone's wanting to work on their presentation skills and adding their humor, you know, we have a whole faculty at Dental Speaker Institute, and it's available on our Dental Speaker Institute faculty page. But and again, this was not your intent, but I'm thinking I would love to share. Do you do coaching, or is there, if someone wanted to work with you to work on that right now?
Yes, I do coaching, not just for speaking, but I have a speciality where I look at the humor, that most people will get a laugh or a giggle and they let it go. And I show people how they can turn it into a series of laughs consistently that work time after time. And that's just Tim at timgard.com. But the rates and things like that are special through you. I mean, as the people that are on your
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I give them a special deal. I'm happy to talk to anybody about that. And I really am, you know, as I look at all of this, it is a great time to do that because you have time.
Yeah.
And you need to help yourself get that jump start, that move a little bit ahead, so that you are ready when I think business is going to come back fairly strong. And, you know, it's like someone was using that example about the highway where they're driving along, you know, and it's bottled up, and then it starts opening up, and the next thing you know, you're going 80 miles an hour. I mean, I can't remember where I heard that, but I think it's a great analogy where we need to be prepared. And I think that our stories are so important, as you know. We've talked about this many times.
You know, and I would say too, even now, if we're finding ourselves doing more virtual presentations, now I think it's actually harder to present virtually because you don't have your physical presence really in the room. So you're trying to manage if you can see all the heads or you can see your
Mhm.
audience, however you're doing that. And now's especially the time for humor to keep them plugged in, to be able to really perfect your stories. That's part of that virtual experience, to be able to keep people from checking their emails
Yes.
while they're listening.
You don't want people to even, they don't want to break rapport for even a few moments. That as you look at this, we want to be funny consistently. We want to have interaction and do things that help them. But I think that this, nobody ever asked me, can you make it boring? And I think that with virtual training, this need for attention, to be making a laugh and to be involved and engaged, and that you keep going, that a story is as long or as short as it should be. And I think it just takes a little work to make it so.
Right, right. Awesome. Well, we're probably going to need to wrap up here pretty soon. Tim, is there anything I haven't asked you about that you feel would be important for us to share before we go? Anything around the use of humor or words? I mean, there's so many great pearls of wisdom. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's really been fun. I would tell people that there are people right now that I think are slightly frozen, not knowing what to do, or that they're overwhelmed with what the possibilities are. Do one thing, start there, go to the next, and then go to the next. That we need to set up our new schedules. I'm home working with Sophia. We have our lunchtime business meeting, which is just
Oh,
really fun now. And I don't know when things change, probably won't be able to do it, but I'm going to miss it a lot.
oh yeah.
And
I
so
know.
yeah, set up things like that. I'm sure you have examples too.
Yeah, yeah. And well, yeah. I don't know if my example is appropriate for what
Well, well, it's like I can see in
I
your
was
background. We have
weighing it.
four. How many cats do you have, Vanessa?
Oh, well, I don't know if I want to put that on recording,
Oh.
but, uh, but I do have one. I can't really turn easily to show him. Let's just say in our shelter here, we have a sanctuary.
Uh-huh.
We have over a dozen
Oh, you do?
in the house. Yeah. The numbers change, but we're a sanctuary, and many of our cats are, there's a health reason or a behavior reason, like they were too shy to be adopted out. So,
That we
so
have
they
four
found,
cats, and
here.
we have four cats, and one of them is 23 or 24 years old, little blind kitty. And I posted on Facebook, when do you know when you're a crazy cat person? And my brother posted one. So
Well, I've got one of the mine is knocking something around underneath my feet right now.
and
Yeah, no,
I just think they bring us so much joy.
yeah.
And it's enjoying the last part to it, I'd say, is just enjoy the little things like that. The listening to a cat purr, listening to children laughing. These are all things that will refresh and renew you. Take the time to do it.
I love that you brought this up, and thank you. I absolutely agree with you. And I want to just I'm going to be Betty White for a minute. There's never been a better time to foster or adopt an animal. Many of our shelters are struggling too with having people be able to come in and they've got animals. There's never been a better time, if at the very least, to foster a dog while you're at home for the next who knows how long. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a real gift too. So just thought I'd throw that out there,
Well, I
kind of
think
random, but
it's a great
yeah.
idea. Do whatever we can for whoever we can.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll
Yeah.
make you feel better.
Yeah. Well, this has been so awesome. Thank you, Tim, for sharing your wisdom with us and reminding us that words really matter always, but especially right now. Tim at timgard.com,
Hmm.
uh, TIMGARD.com.
That's correct. That's correct.
And just appreciate you being here, appreciate you being a part of a Dental Speaker Institute and a part of our curriculum that we're creating. And there's going to be more on that coming soon. I was really right at that point where I was just ready to help it explode, and all this happened. We're still moving forward, so it's going to
I
be
think that's
announced.
great. And if you have a special class that you'd like Vanessa and I to do, let us know. I'm happy to come on, talk about humor, talk about storytelling, talk about anything I can to help out.
Awesome. And feel free for you can just hop on too, Tim.
Okay, great.
Anytime, just hop on and share. We'd love for that. Right now, more than ever, we all need to be connected. And I think the more we can help our speakers and consultants and buoy them up and give them ideas, the better it's going to be for the industry as a whole and ultimately the world as a whole. So
I
we
agree.
just solved all of humanity's problems.
Just in a very short time.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And until next time, everyone, take good care of you and be well.
Have fun.